greetings and hotep from the ancestors who are always a part of me. My feet are tingling right now, but that's another story. In African cosmology, we generally start with a libation, and as the elder, with the exception of Phil, I'm giving everyone permission to speak. The libation, I wish I did know an authentic one in Yoruba, but I don't, because English is not my first language. But you start by giving thanks to the earth. Water is the lifeblood of everything that grows. So, Sister Anna has asked everyone to put the name of an ancestor here, and you generally call out the name of an ancestor after you offer the prayer and the glory of the libation. And for me, I'm going to start because I have too many to name. But I'm going to say mine in memory and honor of the 60 million who didn't make it over here. And I give thanks and praises for the strength and power of my ancestors that I am here today. When you call out the name, the response is Ashe. And just go around. Say whatever feels, whatever moves you.
Melvin Edwards.
Ashe.
Paul and Mildred Hamry.
Ashe.
Nzinga.
Ashe.
Harry Sutton.
Ashe. Ashe.
Malcolm.
Ashe.
My great-great-grandfather, freedman slave, Taylor Harper.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Frank Ballard.
Ashe. To the mosquitoes, because they need food too, and they turn me up. I'm sorry. Whatever you were saying, Ashe. Ashe.
Okay. You can wrap it up.
So anytime you want to do that at home, it doesn't take anything special, just water and a love of your ancestors. I start my day, each and every day, with a prayer to the Creator. I give thanks and praises, Mother, Father God, for the blessing of another day, another chance to at least get it right, or at least to do and be better. Ashe.
Ashe. Anna Edwards, and I'm with the Sacred Ground Historical Reclamation Project. And this is our 16th annual Gabriel Forum that we've held. And we have always done something on this day, small, large, loud, long, and also sometimes very intimate and very close. What we like to do basically is honor the memory of Gabriel and the rebellion that he and his cohort attempted to lead in 1800 to bring slavery to an end. And this year I wanted to share that I met another Gabriel when I was in the island of Barbados. I was on a study program and I happened to be there in time for their August 1st Emancipation Day commemoration, which they have been doing for more than 30 years. And they do it surrounding a monument to this man named Bussa, who in 1816 led a rebellion, a mass rebellion on the island of Barbados. And not unlike Gabriel, they were not in that moment successful. But it was the tipping point, and they celebrated abolition almost 26 years later. So it's known and it's understood by the people of Barbados. They come together, they honor him. And one of the things that I thought was telling about that was when the government decided that it was going to put up a monument to their Emancipation Day in 1834, they put it up as an Emancipation Day monument with no name to the figure. But when the people gathered, everyone shouted Bussa. They shouted Bussa all day and for the next several years until finally they formally renamed that monument the Bussa Monument. So we share these histories, and that was one of the things I learned, is that there are stories like this for every one of the places where that plantation slavery economy, where that Holocaust played out in the places that they refer to as the New World. They all have these stories. They all have these heroes, and they have a clear sense of them. But I will also say that they struggle in the same way that we do in Richmond to get them properly memorialized, to get the history told. Actually, it seems to be easier to get a monument put up than it is to get the accurate history told. So this is also why we are so concerned as we follow this journey towards the success of a Shacklebottom Memorial Park, towards the success of monuments that will actually indicate that our story took place here. But the real truth is that we have to educate ourselves with this history and carry it forward, because if we don't pass the stories on, they won't be taken up and they won't be remembered. Someone will know that there's a monument there, but they won't know why it's there. You'll know the name of a figure, but you won't know what they did, right? So it's on us to do that. And that's a gorgeous thing. We talk to our children every day. We can tell those stories. People make spectacular books. We can share those books. We can do this. And we don't have to keep saying that, I didn't learn that in school. Well, there's a whole lot of stuff you didn't learn in school. How much do you want our teachers to actually have to handle every 15 minutes in the classroom? They are going to do better, but it's on us. So enjoy that. Take that on, and be glad that we continue to have this opportunity to come together. Keep in mind that every October 10th, this is the place to be, whether we are here or not. Whether we call some giant commemoration or a celebration or not, this place is here, and you can mark it. You can mark it in the ways that you see fit. What we wanted to do today is a couple other things. This is a little bit like this looks like it could be an open mic, but it's really not. So in any event, what we wanted to do today, again, keep it short, and then you are free to move around the space as you like, is to bring you some updates in what's happening in the struggle for the Memorial Park, and to read a letter that went to Mayor Stoney on Monday. It was an open letter to Mayor Stoney, and I've asked Lynetta Thompson, who's a member of the Richmond branch NAACP, to read the first part of the letter. And then I'm going to ask for a volunteer to read the second part of the letter. And then I'm going to ask for another volunteer to read the third part of the letter. You might be...
Hello, everyone. Yeah, he can do that. Now, I take pleasure in this celebration. It's our celebration, and we have to keep it alive. But the letter reads, to Richmond Mayor LaVar Stoney concerning the future of Shacklebottom. October the 8th. Dear Mayor Stoney, October the 10th will mark the 218th anniversary of the execution of the great slave rebellion leader Gabriel. It has been more than a quarter century since Richmond historian Elizabeth Caborn uncovered the existence of the Richmond African Burial Ground, one of this country's very first municipal cemeteries to accept black people, many of whom were enslaved. It has been 10 years since the city's Slave Trail Commission discovered the actual foundation of the building comprising the Devil's Half Acre, the jail complex for enslaved Africans owned by the notorious Robert Lumpkin. It has been 7 years since a protracted community struggle forced Virginia Commonwealth University to remove its parking lot that desecrated the African burial ground. It has been 4 years since an intense community struggle succeeded in blocking plans by the Venture Richmond Business Organization and former Mayor Dwight Jones to build a baseball stadium in the heart of Shockoe Bottom, which for decades before the end of the Civil War was the epic center of the U.S. domestic slave trade. It has been 3 years since the community proposal for a 9-acre Shockoe Bottom Memorial Park was adopted after a 5-month series of open community meetings in a process led by the Sacred Ground Historical Reclamation Project. That park would include the Dover Half-Acre, the African Burial Ground, and the 2 blocks east of the CSX railroad tracks bound East Broad Street, East Grace, and North 17th Street, an area that once included several jails for enslaved people, including those owned by the Silas
Omohundro.
Okay, Silas Omohundro and William Goodwin. Good.
She pointed to me.
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Right here. Okay. Since that process, there have been several city attempts to upend the community proposal by sponsoring other series of community meetings, one by Richmond Speaks and 2 more by the Smith Group JJR. In every meeting, the overwhelming preference expressed by community members was for the 9-acre park. Because of its unique importance to African Americans everywhere, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, chartered by the United States Congress in 1949, had declared Shockoe Bottom a national treasure, as well as one of the most endangered historic sites in this country. That evaluation has been seconded by the Rose Center for Public Leadership in a process that you yourself initiated. Both the National Trust and the Rose Center have emphatically stated that any memorialization of Shockoe Bottom must be larger than any one single site. The National Trust has endorsed the proposal for a 9-acre memorial park. The Rose Center has stated that an even larger area should be memorialized. Advocates have spoken with you about this issue many times. There have been formal meetings in your office and informal talks in the community. Always, you say the same thing, that you would like to see a memorial larger than the Devil's Half-Acre, but never clearly stating your support for the actual memorial park. Meanwhile, serious city money is being spent in what seems to be an endless series of discussions, meetings, reports, presentations. Little, if any, of this taxpayer money has gone to the Black community. Instead, it has been paid to private, for-profit, predominantly white companies that have simply duplicated the community process that produced the proposal for the memorial park, a process that did not cost the city a single dime. You? I point to you.
Same thing.
I read this whole page?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's more names on the next page. That'll be the whole thing.
Okay. And while all these endless discussions continue, real estate and development deals are being made in the bottom that will threaten the viability of the memorial park. You yourself have promoted designating the Main Street station, which the Rose Center suggested could be the site of a slave trade. Interpretive center as the city's center for high-speed rail, which would entail building more parking areas next to or on the footprint of the proposed park. Mr. Mayor, we are tired of seeing this process drag on indefinitely. We suspect the purpose is to try and wear down the supporters of a proper memorialization of Shockoe Bottom. We want a definite answer to the following question, and we would like it now. Do you support the community proposal for Shockoe Bottom Memorial Park to include the site of Devil's Half Acre, the African burial ground, and the 2 blocks east of the CSX railroad tracks bounded by East Broad, East Grace, and North 17th Street. Miss Major Stoney, it is past time to take a stand. Are you for or against the 9-acre Shockoe Bottom Memorial Park? Sincerely.
Do this part louder.
Florence Breedlove, member of RVA Archaeology. Ellen Chaplin, PhD, co-founder RVA Archaeology. Ashley, MSW. Leonard, Ella, Pastor, New Hope Fellowship. Anna Edwards, Chair, Sacred Ground Historical Reclamation Project. Danita Roundtree Green, co-founder, coming to the table. Richmond, CTT, RVA. Reverend Rodney Hunter, Pastor, Wesley Memorial United Methodist Church, ICE, out of RVA. John Mosier, Emeritus Professor, Urban Studies and Planning, VCU. Joseph Rogers, member, Steering Committee, Virginia Defenders for Freedom, Justice and Equality. Martha Rollins, co-founder, coming to the table. Richmond, CTT, RVA. Lynetta Thompson, State Advisor, Virginia State Conference Youth and College Division. Richard Walker, founder, CEO, Bridging the Gap, Virginia. Phil Willado, editor, the Virginia Defender.
Well done. Yay! Thank you. All right, so you heard that. It was basically a call. It said, Mayor Stoney, do you support the establishment of a Shockoe Bottom Memorial Park or not? Make it. Just say it, make it. Let's go forward. We wanted to ask that if those of you, especially if you're new and you're not on any of our communication lists, please let us have your contact information, and I'll have a sheet of paper on to off to the side when we're finished. But I also wanted to point out a couple of things, one of which is that Queen Nzinga wanted me to let you know about this incense, which is frankincense and a crystal. And basically, it's known for its healing and protective powers. It is not marijuana. However, I feel good now. We also have a handout for everybody, and part of this is to do with the fact that as we have been fighting for the community proposal for Shockoe Bottom Memorial Park, there has been a lot of other planning going on in the city. We have got plans down the road for high-speed rail, which is being discussed and determined now. You have the design planning that's going on for the Lumpkins Jail Devil's Half Acre site. You have the Richmond 300 process that is going on, which is the 20-year master planning process for the city of Richmond. We also, I don't have it in front of me. Anyway, I will hand that out to you, but there are at least 7 items on that, including an economic benefit and impact study that the Sacred Ground Project is doing in concert with Preservation Virginia, the Center for Design Engagement, the Valentine. And the idea there is to be able to make the economic case for the development of the Memorial Park, but also to offer an arena of models for economic development that will benefit the people who need to benefit from this park economically. And so that is the African American community, it is the working class and poor communities of Richmond. So that work is going to go on over the next year, hopefully completed by next spring. But I say all of this to say that all of the planning processes that are going on and being hosted by different people have to do with zoning changes. any of the discussions are going to boil down to zoning changes. And zoning is laws that tell developers and the city what they can and cannot do with any given property. And it affects things like right-of-way. It affects things like how big the signs can be, where they will allow street closures, how tall buildings can be. All of these things, you think they don't matter until the building goes up in front of you, and then suddenly you're losing your mind. Well, they decided that, 5, 6, 7 years before. And so when these seemingly boring, endless meetings for zoning changes come up, it actually serves you very directly to understand what's going on. Attend those meetings, find out what the heck they're talking about, and realize that you can actually affect the process at that stage. It's much harder when things are already about to be built. You become, and we have become, oftentimes the people who say, hey, I didn't know about that, and I don't like where this is going, and we cry and we make it stop. But we also have the opportunity to participate a little earlier in that process. And it's getting to be more and more important as this development stuff is happening in many directions all at the same time, and even they don't always know what they are doing. So this is a really important piece. So the handout lists 7 different processes that are going on right now. And that doesn't include the private development stuff that's going on. So I encourage you to investigate those, get to know them, attend where you can, but definitely make your feelings about those things known, and really start chatting with people in your immediate sphere about them. And relate it maybe to something that you've seen happen in your neighborhood that will help people understand what you're talking about. So.
Totally off the cuff. I've never ever been involved with politicking, because that's what I call it, politicking. The original intent was government of, for, and especially by the people, and we haven't seen that. I'm from the perspective that all it takes is a stroke of the pen to do anything. I don't care about zoning. I don't care whose feelings get hurt. The stroke of a pen, if you don't believe me, ask Donald Trump. Look at the madness he has created with the stroke of a pen and all these flourishes. When he signs his name, got to go from the top of the page to the bottom.
All right. Listening to me and to Queen and to Lynetta and to Reggie and to Cindy participate in the program this year, and we look forward to seeing you next year. But as I said, at this moment, for those of you who haven't, if you want to put the name of an ancestor or a loved one on the paper around these stones, if you want to have a quiet moment here on site, we encourage you to stay as long as you like, or as the mosquitoes want to enjoy you. And then I'm sorry, just a second. Yes.
Buddy. For those that don't know, next year marks the 400th anniversary of Africans being stolen from America and being sent to these shores illegally. My question to you, Anna, is what do you think the community should do collectively to commemorate that? Because we know that the tourism is going to be off the chain in reference to that. And I think that we are conscious, and those of us that care about what we went through and are still going through need to come up with a real program to talk about how we feel and have activities to further empower us concerning this area and all of Richmond.
Thank you. You answered your own question.
I want to hear from you.
So I've been put on the spot. So what I have to say to that is we have not begun specifically planning for next year yet, but it is certainly something that is being worked on by a lot of different entities. So we know that the state has already formed a program that is working on it. It's a little interesting, and I'm not sure what it's called now, but if you put in 2019 and 400th anniversary, it will come up. I also know that there is a group down in Hampton Roads, Fort Monroe area that is also a local group or local coalition of groups that is developing programming, including calling for a monument to be constructed near Fort Monroe, because, excuse me, that was the actual debarkation point. Jamestown was where they ended up ultimately, but the debarkation point was at Fort Monroe. So I think, at this point, look around and see what is already on the table, and then, we can come together and you all can make your suggestions about what we can do next year. And I think we'll find that there is a lot that's going to be going on next year. So, all right. Does anybody else want to make a brief statement?